I'm Tim, welcome to Watch You Want, and thanks for logging on. Today we're looking at the Richard Mille RM28 Diver, 47mm in titanium. You can see this RM28 on our website, watchyouwant.com, and if you enjoy these videos, please subscribe to our YouTube channel, Watch You Want Inc. Now, I want to emphasize that although this watch is absolutely huge, it is big but not massive. That is, it has size but not necessarily overwhelming heft. You can see on my wrist 6 1/3 inches, 16 centimeters in circumference. The watch stands up loud and proud. With a double cantilevered edge, this is not one to slip under a dress cuff. Now it is 47mm across the diagonal portions, the closest diagonal portions of the round part of the case, but it's also about 55.5mm from lug to lug. So in terms of extremities, this covers a lot of real estate. Now 16mm thick means it's nice and tall. Don't even think about a dress cuff. But in case you didn't know, a huge red, gray, and white accented oversized sports watch is a watch for good times, not necessarily finer times. I will say that in that it's not massive, the lightweight titanium makes this watch a delight. Part of the key there is that the watch features a cambered caseback that's very unusual on round case watches. Now I've seen this on some tonneaus, I've seen this on some Curvex types, I've even seen it on some rectangular watches like the Franck Muller Long Island, but I've never really seen it on a round case. So Richard Mille clearly understood that you can build a bigger watch, but you can't necessarily build a bigger client, and this RM28 is built to suit. Now, unlike the even larger RM25 tourbillon, this one actually fits a smaller wrist. I would say that even if your wrist is smaller than mine, say 15 centimeters, you're going to have no trouble with this because the fit is excellent and the weight is very reasonable. The strap itself is superb, featuring natural vulcanized red rubber. It has conforming end pieces, so you can see that there's no unsightly gap between the flank of the case and the edge of the strap, so it reads very unitary, and that's sort of part of the Richard Mille ethic, that the watch will read sort of like a machine on the wrist, not separate elements cobbled together, not a traditional dress watch or even a traditional sports watch in any sense. One sort of fusion of man and machine, the definition of ergonomics. The strap's an excellent piece and easily adjustable with a traditional pin buckle. Richard Mille is big into tech, but in this case, Richard Mille is going back to basics, because when you have a sports watch, you understand that there are going to be hot days, there are going to be active times, your wrist is going to expand and contract, and the strap and its fit needs to be adjustable on the fly. So the pin buckle is the perfect combination with an aggressive diver, and it is an aggressive diver. 300 meters or 1,000 feet water resistant. This one's not afraid to take the plunge, and when it does, you're going to notice that there are some unique features that hold you in good stead. First and foremost, a special take on the unidirectional rotating dive bezel. We know it and love it, but have you ever seen it like this? Twin triggers allow you to rotate the bezel. Now when you release them, it won't budge. Now even when you plunge them down, you can't rotate it backwards, so even a worst case scenario underwater where you somehow manage to depress both will not allow you to accidentally extend your dive. You'll notice that the watch features abundant luminova on its surface, so while it is a skeleton dial, I would argue that because of the strategic location of the loomed indices as well as the abundant lume on the hands, this is a watch that may actually be easier to read in low or no light than during the day. Now the dial is beautifully textured and beautifully stepped in the sense that there are several crystal planes leading down to the skeletonized movement. The first, of course, is the crystal atop. Beneath that, there is a second crystal that actually serves as the mounting point for the loomed indices, the calibrations you see, as well as the frame of the date window right down here at 7 o'clock. The final crystal is the date disc itself, so 3 sapphires in one in a sort of staggered layout, each with individualistic calibrations that allow them to read as separate layers of an almost floating multiplanar invisible dial. Not just skeletonized, this is a completely open dial with floating indications, and it's very dramatic with the PVD backdrop of the movement itself. So what about that movement? Well, rotating past the almost architectural multiple planes and structural elements fully expressed of the Richard Mille RM28 case, we come to the movement itself, the RMA S7. This is a movement best described as a skeletonized exercise in mass minimization and I would say shock attenuation. Everything about this movement is designed to be rugged and minimize its vulnerability to shock. The first way you do that is you reduce mass. The less mass you have, the less susceptibility to resonance, to recurring tremors, to sudden shifts of weight or momentum. The less momentum the movement has, essentially, the better. Now, the next thing Richard Mille does after minimizing the mass is he isolates it on a sort of floating cradle. Each one of the mounting points of the movement is mounted on a shock absorber. So you have an elastomer between the anchor of each post of the case clamps. Very impressive in isolation, pun intended, but there's more. The watch also features a free-sprung balance, and now you can just about see the balance blocks on the rotating balance. Its oscillations just below my thumb right here. You can see those silver forms, the little collets on the outer circumference of the balance. Those are used to adjust the fine timing rather than a mobile index regulator. You can also see the fixed stud and the lack of a conventional mobile index there. Moreover, the watch features automatic winding that allow you to tailor the watch with more or less propensity to wind the 55-hour power reserve and the twin mainspring barrels. You see these little adjustable wings that are on the winding mass? This will change the moment of inertia. Now, if you're a sedentary type, you might want to increase the moment of inertia as much as possible so you recoup as much motion, as much kinetic energy as you can to wind the watch. If you're an active lifestyler, you might want to spare the watch undue wear and tear and reduce the moment of inertia so it has less of a propensity to wind rapidly. In any case, the winding is borne on unlubricated ceramic bearings, more efficient as well as sealed for life, unlubricated, maintenance-free. They reduce a conventional wear and tear item on most rotor-wound automatics, which is to say almost all automatics. Now, the watch is very tough in every respect. The titanium, the free-sprung balance, the minimally, shall we say, adorned minimal mass of the skeletonized movement, the shock absorbers that support the movement. Everything about this watch is designed to play rough. Now, you may say, who's going to take a watch with an original retail of $95,000 diving? Well, you know what? People do it. And a watch like this is very much like a Lamborghini. It's like a McLaren. It's like owning the LaFerrari. Way, way, way more capability than you're ever going to utilize in any practical situation or ever need in any real sense. But luxury is about getting more than you expect and having more than you need. And I've got to say, in every respect, from size to style to features, the Richard Mille RM028 Diver, 47 millimeters in titanium, definitely fits the bill. You can see it, and you can buy it on our website, watchyouwant.com.